Since his early years, Jimmy Page has been featured on the covers of every guitar magazine, so it's no wonder that he was inducted twice into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. For a number of years during the height of his fame, Page was the most sought-after guitarist in Britain. He is also considered to be the most influential guitarist of his era. But beneath the glittering exterior of his iconic guitar riffs, there have been secrets, the nature of which have only been whispers. After all, who could have assumed that the man behind the staircase of heaven had a secret history of being a Satanist? It might have started when he was 12 years old and discovered an abandoned Spanish guitar in the Miles Roadhouse where his family had moved. The instrument was remarkably well maintained, but no one could identify its owner. No family friend had brought it over, and it appeared that no one knew why it was there. Perhaps there were other forces at work, because if it hadn't been for that unclaimed guitar, Page would never have been interested in music. But he was fascinated by the mysterious instrument and started practicing alone, which led to his rise to fame and something darker. In his youth, he joined a lot of bands, but they all ended up dissolving occasionally, and his life felt chaotic and things didn't always go as planned. At times, he didn't even think of his music as a serious career, telling his friend that he preferred to discover a cancer treatment. Page, in contrast to his peers, chose to continue his education while playing the guitar. As a result, at the age of 15, he found himself in an English library with a strange little book that captivated him more and more. The book was English occultist Aleister Crowley's Magic in Theory and Practice. Later, he described the experience of reading it as something that just clicked, and when he finished, his first thought was, "Yes, that's it, my thing, I found it," which started him on a strange journey that frequently distanced him from Christian audiences who believed his influences were malevolent and demonic. Shortly after his discovery, Page developed an obsession with Crowley, which also helped his career take a positive turn. Page was instrumental in the formation of the notorious band Led Zeppelin, which has been characterized as a band of devilishly evil individuals who were satanic performers. From 1968 to 1980, Led Zeppelin was in operation, releasing a number of well-known and critically praised albums. Led Zeppelin's fourth album, which includes 4 occult symbols that symbolize each of the group's members, is a prime example of how the band's use of occult symbols in their content sparked controversy. His own symbol, known as Zoso, which has its roots in RS, is connected to astrology and the zodiac. Girolamo Cardano wrote the ancient alchemical grimoire, Maga Artificii, in the 14th century. This emblem, along with those of other zodiacs, is prominent in many of the costumes Page donned while on tour. For this record was his dragon costume, which was embroidered with the Cancer Moon and Capricorn Sun Scorpio ascendant, signifying Page's own astrological alignment. The artwork on the album cover also included a painting called The Hermit that was based on a tarot card design. Although it was credited to an unidentified artist named Barrington Colby, there were later rumors that Page was the one who created it. This was further supported when he assumed the persona of the painting during a fantastical scene from the Led Zeppelin performance movie. The song remains the same, but this was only the start of Page's occult obsession. In the 1970s, he opened an occult publishing house in a bookstore called The Equinox because, in his words, there was not a single bookstore in London with a good selection of occult books. And I was furious that I couldn't get the books I wanted. Under his supervision, the company published 2 books at its peak, one of which was the facsimile of Crowley's 1904 edition of the Ga and Astrology, Science of the Cosmos by Isabel Hickey. Although the business failed and the lease expired without a renewal, Page, he was unfazed, stating that he only wanted the shop to serve as the foundation for whatever was ultimately up for debate. During this time, he was captivated by Crowley and frequently read everything he wrote as though it were the Bible. He thought that Crowley was a misunderstood genius of his era, and he stated that he did not want to force his beliefs on anyone. Crowley was a response to profound personal reflections and that he had applied his philosophy to his daily life, fervently adhering to his teachings. In an interview, he explained this position, saying that the key is to accept one's free will, find one's place and identity, and then you can go ahead and do it without spending your entire life repressed and frustrated. It's essentially accepting oneself. He was also asked to compose the soundtrack and serve as the music supervisor for the movie Lucifer Rising by an underground film director and fellow Crowley fan, Kenneth's anger for this led him to produce 23 minutes of music, but he was confronted by Anger, who claimed that the film was 28 minutes long and that Page was abandoning the task rather than doing it justice. He accused him of being a dabbler in the occult and that no one could truly do anything meaningful for it. He blamed this on Page's drug addiction, which was perhaps the only thing as essential to Page as his obsession with the occult. During the height of Led Zeppelin's popularity in the 1970s, he publicly acknowledged that drugs were a big part of everything from the start to the finish. He frequently used drugs while on tour, particularly during the band's 1973 North American tour, but he eventually lost most of his memory. According to manager Richard Cole, this bad habit started with heroin in 1975 during the album's recording sessions, and soon after, he confessed what we all believed, that he was addicted because by the time the tour rolled around, his drug use had begun to negatively affect his performance and he had lost a significant amount of weight, which worried his fans, friends, and family. He had also become cold, distant, and isolated, which changed his dynamics with the band members. His frequent use also led to extended absences from the studio, and perhaps the band's slow decline was a slow alarm because after they split up, Page finally realized his mistakes and announced that he had overcome his addiction. Although the truth of that statement was debatable, Page's high-profile status meant that he received minimal consequences for his two drug possession arrests in 1982 and 1984. On the first arrest, he received a 12-month conditional discharge, and on the second, he was only fined, escaping the serious ordeal unscathed. Despite being closely linked to the drug, Page did not like being called out for it during that time, according to an interview with the Musician magazine in 1988. When his interviewer pointed out that his drug use had become synonymous with his name, he was extremely offended. He responded angrily that he did not appear to be a smack addict and was definitely not one, so he would prefer not to be accused of such remarks if they could be helped later. As he grew older and his use had actually decreased, however, his stance softened and changed significantly. When asked if he regretted his drug addiction in a 2003 interview with Q magazine, he replied, "I don't regret it at all. When it comes down to it, you have to be on top of things." Jimmy Pig's statement may not be entirely incorrect. He did some bad things, but perhaps without them, the world would not have had the gems he ended up producing. Perhaps the question is whether it was his fault considering all the drug use, the occult obsession, or the fact that both Presents and In Through the Outdoor were only recorded in 3 weeks. What is your favorite Jimmy Page song? Tell us in the comments below whether he was a product of his time and circumstances, or if he was just doing everything he could to become the genius we know and love.